Here we are.
Hello. How is it?
It's going. It's crazy.
I suppose you got school ramping up, huh?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a little nuts. A little more work than I can handle, I think, actually. Even with new employees. So we are recording. Kara, I just don't know if we're good to start or if people are still popping in. I see we've got 14 people. Okay, let's see that. We'll give people just another minute. Sorry, we're starting a little late, guys. Okay, take two. Seeing who's here.
Welcome, everybody. If you want to just in the chat, just give us a little background, kind of maybe what state you're in and what area of practice you're currently in. That would be great. Just to get an idea of the audience we're speaking with today.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. I know some of you had registered the first time and we had a little glitch. So we're here now, good to go. Hey, Claire, I'm from Portland too, although I'm in North Carolina now. Yeah, and if you guys, when you put your information in the chat, just make sure it's saying that it's going to everybody and not just the panelists, so that you're sending it to everyone so everyone can see, especially if you have any questions as we go. Okay, we've got a good 15 now. I'm not sure how many people registered, so. Hey, Lucretia, I know you. All right.
Hey, Wendy.
I want to go ahead and get started since we're a little late going. Feel free to keep on putting that in the chat. It'd be great to have that information. And I'm going to get my screen pulled up so we can get started. Oh, Kara, I need to be able to share my screen. Hopefully she's there. Kara, are you there? I'm not able to share my screen.
Hi, Jared. Trinity, a couple people from Florida.
I'm gonna text Kara because maybe she stepped away from the computer. Looks like a lot of you are in the same time zone as me.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Oh, thank you. Wasn't sure if you stepped away. Thanks, Kara. This is probably kind of early for you. Here we go. Thanks, Kara. All right, here we go. Thanks for your patience, everybody. All right,
Are you good?
We're good. I think we got
Okay.
it now.
I'm
Thank
still
you.
here. Let me know.
Okay. Let me get this pulled up. All right.
Well, welcome to the webinar. Hopefully everything goes smoothly the rest of the way. We apologize for some of the snafus we've had. This webinar is networking for introverts, and it's really about how you can build connections if you don't feel like you're that much of a people person. So the objectives today is to dispel the myths about introversion, and about networking, how to initiate and build connections while conserving your people energy. I know for some people, it takes everything we have just to get out there and talk. So we're going to help you with that. And then also how to sustain those connections once you make them. I am Erin Lindberg. I'm a holistic women's health occupational therapy of 20 plus years. I am the owner of the Healing Hub and of Integrative Therapies and Wellness. I'm also the co-creator of the Cash-Based Therapy Business Builder program. And a little bit about how I got into each of those. I got into more of holistic occupational therapy, primarily John F. Barnes myofascial release and other complementary and integrative approaches as well, like visceral manipulation, and also into pelvic health rehab through my own personal experiences. So I started out in a journey of my journey in dementia management, actually. I was fascinated with mind-body connection, so I was in dementia management. And then throughout my experience, throughout different types of treatment modalities, that's how I got into my specialty area now. How did I get into private practice? I was really sick of corporate bureaucracy. I was ready to get rid of the middlemen. I was ready to treat how I felt the patient and client should be treated, as well as treat in a way that served me and my family. And why the Cash-Based Therapy Business Builder program? Because when I jumped into private practice, there really were no resources out there for occupational therapists. And so over the past years, it's been a lot of investment, not only of time and money, just to figure things out on our own. So that's why Alicia and I teamed up and decided, you know what, we're going to take all the resources we've used over the years and put them into one program for making things easier for other OTs out there aspiring to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I have the same reasons for that. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I have a private practice in North Carolina. I did school-based therapy for a long time. So my first venture into working for myself was to do some school contracts, and did that part-time starting in 2010. And then in 2015, I opened up my own practice, primarily because I wanted to do some group therapy. I was lucky to be working in a charter school where I had a lot of flexibility. And I was able to do these groups and serve kids that wouldn't normally get served because they didn't all have IEPs, and I could have peer models. And it was really fun and really effective. And it really wasn't something that could happen anywhere else. And so when I decided to leave that job, I thought, well, why can't I do it? However, I was really naive in thinking that people would just show up as soon as I said I was open and had my website. And that's not the case, which is also part of the reason for the Cash-Based Business Builder, because I think other people think the same thing, and that's really not how it works. Networking, like we're talking about tonight, is part of that. And there's a lot of work that you have to do, and things that I think Erin and I have both learned the hard way. So we want to avoid those things by helping other people, so you don't have to go through those hard lessons and end up ultimately losing some money. So now I have 2 full-time staff. I'm super excited because they're my first full-time OT staff. I've had part-time people in the past, and I have more business I can handle. I seem to get a new school contract every year. And so now that we're all back in person with the schools, life is a little nutty. So I may actually be hiring someone else. I'm not sure yet. Business is good. So this is good. We hope we're going to give you some information tonight that'll really be helpful for getting some of those connections for you. So let's get to it. So first of all, this is not exclusively for introverts. Sometimes we worry about some things that extroverts don't. And extroverts, you're here, you may still be learning something too, but just naturally, sometimes introverts have more challenges or perceive more challenges. For instance, we may not know the best way to reach out to someone. I am absolutely an introvert. I'm on the far end of introvert scale, and this certainly was something I had no idea how to do, especially as a kid. I had no idea how to make friends and reach out to people. As an adult, sometimes that's so hard for us. What do you say once you do make a connection with somebody? Sometimes people think that shyness and introversion are the same thing when they're not. So a lot of times, those two things can be tied together, but just because you get drained by people doesn't mean you don't want to be around them, or doesn't mean that you are not sure what to say. But sometimes those things go hand in hand. So a little bit of what we'll talk about tonight may be helpful if shyness is a little bit of your issue too. The other thing we worry about is that we may have to be prepared to say something on the fly and respond to somebody in some way that we may not quite know what we're going to say or what we're going to do in that situation. So with networking, there's this fear associated with that, having to be on in a certain way or to say a certain thing to people. And small talk, it's typically an introvert thing to not like small talk. I think a lot of us get good at that anyway when we're therapists, but it's just something to think about. These are things that we might worry about that we don't need to worry about quite as much as you think, because we actually have so many strengths that really help us network, and we make great entrepreneurs. We are good listeners. We're creative. We're insightful. We tend to be really reflective, which helps us learn to do better and be better. We're very self-motivated. And this isn't to say that extroverts aren't. This is not an introvert versus extrovert thing. These are things that are typically things that introverts that fit them. So, like I said, it's not about against extroverts, because I'm sure many of you have these things as well. But we do tend to be a little more in our heads sometimes. But sometimes these skills that we have really can help us with networking too. So they make us great therapists. A lot of these skills and how we connect with other people are also great for networking. So I think one of the things that happens is that we get also stuck with imposter syndrome, which we're not going to get into. It's a whole nother topic, whole nother video webinar. And we're not really getting into that, but we do encourage you to notice some of the stories you tell about yourself. So sometimes when we define ourselves as an introvert or an extrovert, or whatever word we might assign to ourselves, we maybe assume that we're not good at reaching out to other people because I'm an introvert. So I would just want to encourage you to change your mindset and the language that you use with yourself, because that can help with that imposter syndrome and build your confidence. So instead of, even if it is a struggle for you, instead of saying I'm not good at, to say I need to learn to, or I struggle with, I'll get better at, I will practice this, just to change how you view yourself. So you don't peg yourself into a hole of introversion. That means if it means to you that you're not going to be good at something, because you absolutely can be good at networking and building a business and all those things that you have to do. And just remember that imposter syndrome comes from anxiety, which sometimes introverts tend to be a little more likely to have. And the best way to combat anxiety is through action. So you are going to have moments of feeling uncomfortable before you might reach out to somebody or before you put yourself out there. But that feeling of discomfort gets a lot less uncomfortable as you practice.
Imposter syndrome is, it's believing that you're not as competent as someone else perceives you to be. So if someone's perceiving you to be competent, imposter syndrome is a good thing. It's just a matter of us getting out of our own heads, because someone else thinks we're doing great things, and that's what we want. So,
right. I want to just say that when I did an interview with Kara early on, when I started with Next Level and doing these things, and I hadn't been on camera before, it was extremely nerve-wracking. And we had talked about what we were going to talk about a little bit, but I can't say it was one of my better moments on camera, but it was my first one. So I give myself grace. I made it through it. As I have become more comfortable, here I've done a few webinars. So yes, it's uncomfortable to put yourself out there, but the more that you do it, the less you feel anxiety about it. And, I come into this kind of experience knowing that maybe I'm going to make mistakes and I might trip over my words and that kind of thing, and may not get all the words out that I intended to say. But I also know that you are all like wonderful people who can give grace to, and you're not going to take screenshots of me with a silly look on my face and start posting them on Twitter and making funny statements about me, because I know you guys aren't like that. So, and don't prove me wrong. So, I know that generally we believe that other people are doing their best. And so I don't tend to worry about it as much anymore. And I actually am working on writing a book. I've written a book and I'm in the stage of like starting to get it out there once it's finally finished with my editor. And my publicist she asked me about the interview I did with Kara, and she's like, well, what have you done? And let's put that up there. And I pulled that up, and I'm like, I don't think that's maybe the best thing to use, but I'll let you listen. And she's like, yeah, maybe not. So, but it gets better as you go. So those things that can be really challenging get easier as you do them. You just have to work through that discomfort. Okay, some of the things that might be holding you back are some of these myths about networking. Sometimes we tend to have this mindset that it's all about selling ourselves, and you have to be out there and just talk about those things and talk about yourself. And this puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. You don't need to have that. That's really not what networking is. That pressure to try to tell other people all about you is not what networking is. It might feel fake or inauthentic. You can build some genuine connections. It's not really about, getting a lot of people to hear about you, because it's not truly a network if you're just putting your name out there. That's marketing. Marketing is brand awareness. Networking is building connections. Or you might perceive it as being a large event where a lot of people get together and they're all giving their elevator speeches and talking about their business and themselves. Sometimes also, if you are in any networking groups on social media, that tends to be what it is too. People are just kind of posting about their business. They're not really building connections with other people. Or you might think it has to do with spending a lot of time with people. And these are myths. These are not true. You do not need to attend large events to network effectively. You can network and be yourself, be genuine. You don't need to spend a lot of time with people to network. It's really about fostering relationships with other people. And yes, part of the reason for this is that these could be possible referral sources. But again, if you look at it that way, it can be helpful knowing that you have to do it, but it's really puts a lot of pressure on yourself if you're trying to get something out of those people. And that's not the purpose. You may have something to offer them. They may have something to offer you, and that would be great. But really it's about just connecting with other people, because you just never know. So I've had OTs I've connected with that have given me contracts over the years that they couldn't handle, that kind of thing.
And that's where being a good listener, which is one of the strengths, is because it's just about being interested in people. So if your whole goal is just to get to know people, get to understand them, it's all about just asking questions and then listening. It's really not ever, your intention should never be to talk about yourself, essentially, but eventually they're going to ask you questions back. So if you can go into whatever situation you're in, if you're getting your hair done, you're asking them questions, and eventually they're going to ask you, what do you do? But that shouldn't be the intent. The intent is just to be interested, not interesting.
And we'll talk about that right next, actually. So who do you network with? Just like she said, getting your hair done. People you already know, you already have a bit of a network. So a lot of these people you have a conversation with. In general, if you already know people, if you have current or former coworkers, people that you graduated with in your therapy school, those are people that you probably can just like reach out to them and say, hey, I started a business, how exciting for me. And they're probably going to cheer you on and be supportive. And that's okay to do that. That's not the same kind of trying to get something from them. In general, I think most of us would be supportive of people that we went to school with who did something like this, or people that we know. But again, like your hairdresser, you're getting your eyebrows waxed, whatever, if you're out there, you do have these natural conversations with people. It's one of those questions everyone asks. What do you do? Getting a massage, getting your car fixed. If you're a mobile therapist, I need my car because I go to people's homes to keep them in their home so they don't fall, and keep their family members from worrying about them and keep them independent, or whatever it might be. Throw that in there when you're getting your car fixed if you're a mobile therapist. Places you volunteer. Anyone you can have a conversation with on places that you go on a regular basis. You already have a little bit of a network. Take advantage of those people.
And then just random places too. So this is just a quick example. I just went on a little vacation. My sister-in-law took our daughters to California, spur of the moment, and we were on the airplane. And the gal sitting next to us just started small talking with us. And comes to find out, so my sister-in-law works for a big beauty industry in the United States, and the gal that was sitting next to us, her and her husband have developed this skincare line made out of like crushed stem cells. and they are just getting ready to launch it and looking for, ways. So it was just an interesting connection that my sister-in-law and her made. So you just never know. You just never know who's sitting next to you.
That's great. Okay. Sometimes we have a hard time with this, just how to initiate something with someone. And we feel like we have to prepare ourselves to be on for other people. We like to be prepared for that because it does take our energy. But you know what? It's totally appropriate to reach out to people by email, social media. It doesn't all have to be in person. So don't feel like networking has to be always as part of these big events, or obviously if you're going to a continuing ed, if we ever get those things in person again. I know COVID's made some of this hard anyway, but like that's a great time to network with other people and have those conversations as well. But sometimes you don't have those opportunities. Like right now, we're a little more stuck at home with COVID, and so email people. But it can be hard to know, what do you say if you're reaching out to someone that you don't know? How can you do that? What can you say? So I'm going to this is something I just sent to somebody. I literally cut and paste something I had sent to a speech therapist. And I said, I saw your ad on Facebook, been trying to build my referral network of SLPs, and love to connect if you want to meet in person. And I'd love to hear about your practice. I said nothing about me and my practice other than, she sees my tagline at the bottom of my email signature. I'm all about hearing about her. So it's exactly what Erin said before. Tell me about you. Use your therapy skills. You go in just like you would with a client. Let me learn about you. And what can you say? So consider, how do you get to know your clients? Tell me about the things that are relevant to what we're doing. If it's a client, you're asking about how they do with dressing maybe, but if one business, tell me about your business. Tell me about your ideal client. Tell me if you take insurance. Some of those things that your clients are going to want to know if you refer to them. So, and the hope is in this back and forth conversation that you're going to have an opportunity to say those things about yourself as well in your business. And really what we're trying to do is build that know, like, and trust factor. So we don't want to refer to people that we don't know. If somebody just sends a random email to me and says, hey, let me tell you all about my business, why would I refer to you? I'm not building any trust in you just because you sent me an email. I get lots of spam. I don't have any trust in those, right? So one time I reached out to somebody who made a comment on a parent Facebook page, and she does some IEP advocacy. And so I said, hey, I'd love to hear all about your business, kind of the same thing I said here. And I have people that might be looking for your services sometimes. And they said, she's like, oh, let me know when you're free so I can tell you all about me or all about it or something like that. Okay, no thanks. I didn't really follow up with her. I felt like I was just going to get a sales pitch in all honesty. So, a lot of people also are not going to get back to you if you reach out. I've reached out to so many speech therapists. I can't even tell you. You're going to get people who are busy and don't understand the importance of the connecting. And sometimes people just get busy too. So sometimes if it's a connection you really want, you may want to reach out again. But at the bottom here, some people you might want to consider reaching out to build some connections. Speech therapists, of course, physical therapists. I always like to tell you other OTs can be your best referral sources. I have had the best luck with other OTs who have, I've got, I think, at least two or three contracts from other OTs, maybe even more than that, my schools. There's things I don't do. I would love to know, who can I send my clients to if they're looking for feeding therapy? Who can I send the babies to? Because I don't work with babies, and I do groups. So maybe if they're looking for a therapist who does group therapy, they'd send them to me. So just getting that, getting to learn about what other people are offering, it helps you make those connections that can ultimately help you. But make your connections genuine, and that's where these things come out.
Part of that, and just coming from it from an abundant mindset, sometimes we look at other therapists as a threat to us. So it's really just shifting that and looking at it from a lens of, we don't have to be fearful or worried that someone's in our neighborhood, but more so look at them as a partner. How can we partner to make our services even better for each other?
Right. There's a lot of reasons why you may end up needing to help each other, 'cause scheduling, there's so many different reasons that I think that's a valid, really valid point. And just remember that it's a give to get kind of thing. So when you are building those connections, you do want to help them out too. And that's having that mindset can be really helpful ultimately for you. If you're in it just for you, people don't really want to help you either. So, okay. So some ideas on how you can sustain connections with people that you've met. Because sometimes you meet in person once and then you're like, okay, now what? And sometimes that's enough. You just put them on a list and say, okay, I know enough about this person that I feel like we could have a connection. If somebody comes to me and they need their services, I'd be happy to pass them on to their information. But lots of times just building a little more of a relationship than just a one-time meeting can be really helpful to sustain that connection. So one of the things that I've done is I've asked some people to write guest blog posts, and I would happily do that for them as well. They don't usually ask me because it seems to be people who are newer in business and their blog's not quite up and running yet, and they're not on that. But for instance, I asked a pediatric massage therapist if she'd write a guest blog post, and I know at least one person who ended up contacting me about that service. So it helps both of us. If I have a blog that's already kind of busy and active, first of all, somebody might just accidentally find it. Second of all, I may have a nice little link to send to a family. Hey, you might want to consider this for your child. So I tend to ask for like fairly general things like speech development, or just, hey, why would I have a pediatric massage therapist work with my kid? Those kind of things. And it helps with search engine optimization for both of your sites. So at least for their site, it gives them legitimacy by linking back to other legitimate sites. So that can be something that's really simple because they don't have to write anything long or fancy. It's something that's just basic to their business. And it can help both of you out. So checking in back with that. Sometimes people haven't followed through with that. Sometimes they have, but it ultimately helps me learn about them too a little bit more. Because I could never write about pediatric massage therapy. I really don't know enough about it, even after having a conversation with the therapist. So ultimately, it can be helpful for their business. Sometimes I'll just put people's name down, like, maybe 6 weeks later, or if things are changing, like during COVID, this is something I did with people. I just said, hey, how are you faring right now? How are things going through with this pandemic? Or how's business right now? Are you looking for more clients, and just checking in to see how things are going? I love asking questions. So if you have like something that's specific to their specialty, for instance, and say, hey, I've got a child who has this, and this, for instance, and say, what's something you might do for that? Or is that something that you would work on with a child? And that just is another way to build connections. Hey, I remember about you. Let's keep this connection going, because if you can serve this kid, then I can send them to you. One thing that I've also done is set up a mastermind. And mastermind can mean a lot of different things, but basically it was just a networking with specific people. So I asked another OT, a couple of speech therapists, and a couple of school psychologists, and we all got together. And we met once a month or so, and until things ended up getting, some people sort of fell off the radar, and some of us stayed connected. And then COVID hit, and then we couldn't really sustain it very easily on a long-term basis, and we all got busy after things got back opened up. But now I have a school psychologist. I referred her to one of my schools. The other psychologist ended up starting a private practice, so we've got each other as people to refer to. I referred people to the speech therapist. The OTs was one of the ones that gave me a school contract and has referred people to my groups. So I got to know these people pretty well enough to build that know, like, and trust factor. And some of them I knew a little bit at least already. None of them I knew really well before we did this, but it was an opportunity to talk about business and problem solve while build those connections as well. So that's something I encourage you to do. They were all pretty much local people, so we were able to meet in person, which was really nice. But now Zoom opens up your opportunities. Do you have a place at your business where you can put other people's business cards or somewhere you can carry them with you if you're a mobile therapist, or rack cards or something like that to help spread the word about their business. And of course, refer. Don't forget to email them and let them know that you're sending somebody their way. So if you have somebody that is looking for another therapist for whatever reason, and you want to send them to them, give them, pass the information on, but don't forget to send an email to that connection to keep you in their mind. Okay, so we just touched about networking a little bit. There's a lot of other things that you can do to network with other people. We also talked a little bit about mindset and imposter syndrome. If you feel like you need more of those kind of things, and a lot more, we also have this cash-based business builder we wanted to tell you about. So Erin's gonna get into that a little bit, and then we will answer any questions that you have after we get through this.
Sure. First, in the chat, how many of you already have businesses? I'm just curious. I saw that you posted what state you're in and what areas of practice. I'm just curious on how many people, so just post in the chat, say yes if you already own your own practice. Yes. Nice. Awesome. So it looks like the majority of people already own their own practice. How many of you guys struggle with networking? All right. So hence why you're on this webinar, right? Yeah. And the one thing with the cash-based business builder is, we want to help people launch solo out of network cash-based businesses in whatever avenue that is, and not older adult because that's a different program. But we take it in 3 phases. And the first phase is really just to help you get set up legally and legit. Oftentimes that's a fear, but sometimes that's the easiest piece is, just getting everything set up. It's when you get down to sharing your niche. So that's the time where and that's the 3rd phase of this program. And it's really in the program, it's helping you get out there and start sharing what you do with people. And it's really about, we all have this gift to work with people and to make people feel better. And really it's just teaching you how to get out there and just sharing that gift with people. And part of that strategy is everything we taught to you here is just being interested, just learning about people, what people are out there that need my help, and not being eager to make that sale. So the 3rd phase of it is all about that. It's about sales and marketing and networking and just authentically being you and sharing your gift.
Oh, sorry.
Who is the cash-based business builder for? It's for the person who's had that feeling that, yes, you know what, I have this inclination that I want to do something on my own. Or you want to be able to say yes to someone when they ask you, hey, can you see me outside of your current practice? So most of you on this webinar are already in private practice, but there's some that may get the recording that, they really want to do it and just haven't done it yet. And a lot of people are fearful to do it because they're not sure if they're going to do it right or do it legally or professionally. They don't want to make mistakes. And ultimately, it's for you if you are willing to step out of your comfort zone. So a lot of people, the easy part is just getting your business set up, making some decisions. Sometimes decisions are hard for people, but the hardest part is getting out and networking with people, because you're not going to have a business if you can't get out to talk to people. And that's the piece where you're going to be challenged to create the avenue of personal growth. So as you grow personally by stretching your comfort zone and getting out and networking people is going to grow you professionally and grow your business. And that's where we found is the biggest chunk of the business of the business builder is, helping people get beyond some of those limiting beliefs, some of the things that hold us back, and really get to the next point of, who am I not to tell people about this? Because you not telling someone about what you can do may keep someone in misery, may keep a family at strife because they can't manage their child's behavior, whatever it may be, or someone's in pain because they didn't know that you had that gift to share for them. So it's helping people get to a different way of thinking. And who is this program to be more cautious for? So not necessarily for, and it's those who aren't action takers. So if you are a to-do lister and just like to check things off the to-do, but you're not willing to step out of your comfort zone and really get out there and do things that maybe you're haven't been more comfortable doing, and not willing to take those risks, this isn't the program for you, because it's really about making some sacrifices to really stretching yourself personally. So if you're the person that likes to stay in your comfort zone and don't want to grow and don't want help, advice, or support, this isn't the best program. And you know what? Business is going to be hard if you're a person that's not willing to go out and just talk with people, create those relationships.
And just to add to that, when you say you have a business, I said I had a business when I started because I had my website, I had my LLC, or no, I didn't even have an LLC, but I had my website and, my name was registered through the state. But I didn't really have a business because I didn't have any clients because nobody was coming in. So yeah, maybe I crossed off some of those things initially off the box of the things of how do I start my business, but just keep in mind, there's a lot more than those things when you get started.
So if, most of you on here have businesses already, so this is more for if you know someone who's been wanting to jump in, are ready to take the next step, and are willing to tell people about the gift that you have to share with others. We are launching our program August 23rd. We will put the link in the chat just for you to share. And if you have any other questions as well, you can email us as well. If you have questions or if you have someone that may be interested, we'd be happy to hop on a call and just to tell you a little bit more about the program, or if you know someone, we can tell them more about the program. So that is, and the program is a 13-week program. It's there's two versions. There's a self-study version and there's a guided full support version where there's live coaching, and all that information is in the link. So now we're going to open up to questions. If you have questions, or maybe you have scenarios or things that you want to brainstorm through, we want to make sure we left enough time to really dive into some of the things that you guys have questions about, or that just things that you've been struggling with and you just need some guidance through it. So you can either just put the questions in the chat, that way everyone can see them. That would be great.
Well, I'd like to ask, anybody feel like they could take maybe make a plan to reach out to at least 3 people this week? And if not, what's holding you back from doing that?
So Jarrett, I saw that you put, yes, you struggle with it, but you've just been putting it off. So I'm just curious why, like she said, what's keeping you from putting it off? And what's making it hard to make those connections, Dawn? Ginger, you're just starting. So I saw a yes from everyone. So I'm just curious on what some of those barriers are for you, so we can help you through that. All right, we'll give you a couple more minutes, but part of the problem is having that self-awareness. So if you don't know why, there we go. No, this is so I am a women's health therapist, so I see adults for this program, but the reason we said it's for older adults is Kara has the program for older adults, seeing older adults in the home. So this is for brick and mortar, adult, maybe orthopedic, women's health, different other populations down to pediatrics. Sure. And Jarrett, just if someone does catch you off guard with a question you may not be able to answer, that's okay. You just say, you know what, I'll find the answer to that and I'll get back to you. So,
Exactly what I was
sometimes,
gonna say.
sometimes we let perfection hold us back. And really, perfection is the worst motivator ever. We don't ever want to be perfectionists because it means that we're not going to do anything because no one's perfect. So it's okay to make those connections. Just be you. Nobody's perfect. So I'm thinking this is Gary, or is it Meeker? I'm not sure which is the first name there. So I feel like you've been trying hard, but people aren't returning your initial calls to set up face-to-face meetings. I feel like I'm being pushy. So I'm just curious, did you only give them, okay. Did you only give them the one initial call? So we can never make assumptions. So that where our minds go is, oh, they didn't return my initial call. What did I do wrong? We go down that rabbit hole of it was me versus we have no idea how busy that person's life is. It just might have been an oversight. So until you get a blatant no that I'm not interested in your services right now, it's okay to follow up because like I know I have a very busy life and sometimes I just forget. Like I'll get a message on my phone and then if I don't respond right then, it goes into the abyss. And it's my oversight. It's not that I'm not interested.
Right. So I say emails, like for me, emails would work better because I'm not going to remember that phone call and have that moment, when I'm going to remember. Whereas email, it's in print, it's in front of me, I can see it a little bit more. So that might be another way to follow up with people if they're not responding to a phone call.
And when you get the no, it's always no for now. Don't ever take no as a no forever. Because remember, it takes people sometimes hearing something 8 times to ever make a decision on it. And you never know if that first no is maybe the first time they heard it. So don't ever take a no as a hard no. And just being persistent doesn't mean you have to be pushy, but just say that if you're going to call again, hey, I know life is busy. Just want to make sure that it wasn't an oversight or that you missed it. So, you can say that in your message. And then the other thing I was going to say, Alicia brought up, what's keeping you from making that one connection? One of the strategies that we teach in the program is the Big 45. And some of you that have taken Kara's program maybe have already heard about this, but your Big 45 is something that you should always be working on. And it's really just in your community, whatever that is, you should have 3 categories of people. And you should have 15 in each of those categories that are referring to you. And one is professionals. So your first 15 should be professionals. Just write down 15 professionals that is serving your same market. Doesn't necessarily mean that can refer to me, but that is already seeing your ideal client. So like Alicia said, some of those examples are other therapists. And your goal is to get through those 45 people and make a connection and remake that connection. So the first 15 are professionals. What are the professionals that are already seeing your clients who maybe you want their clients and they want your clients? It's just that connection. The other one are maybe community groups or community entities. So maybe they're gyms or boutiques per se. So, sometimes like a children's boutique will put flyers, bag stuffers in their bags. So things like that you can use as connections. And so other businesses or other community people in your community. And then your third category are your customers. So where are 15 places that your customer is hanging out where you can directly reach your ideal client? So that is something that you can all do, take away from this, is make your Big 45. So 3 categories of 15 businesses or people in each one.
And before we get to Ginger's question, I just wanted to say something before I forget. related to Jarrett, what Jarrett said. Sometimes physicians are not your best referral source. Now, in pain management or hand therapy, orthopedics, then they might be, but a lot of times it's really hard to get FaceTime with them too. And they're not necessarily thinking about you. It's potentially the office manager or, triage nurse or somebody that's, they've got a referral person in the office. It's actually the one who's ultimately sending you the clients. And so I hardly ever get referrals from doctors. I actually don't like referrals from doctors. The best referrals, in my opinion, are the ones that come straight from the clients themselves, are reaching out directly, because they're the ones that are more likely to follow through. I find the ones that come from the doctors don't tend to as much. So just keep in mind, depending on what kind of business you have, physicians are not always your best referral source. So other people may be better people to spend your time with.
And some doctors can't refer out of their network.
Right. That's the other thing.
So I live in a small town with two big healthcare organizations, and neither one of them can refer out. So they still tell, sometimes bring it up to their clients, but it's not my first priority to go to them, because I know their hands are tied as well.
Yeah, it's same with insurance. I mean, if most of them take insurance, so you can't. Those of us with insurance contracts and who are in network, we're not really supposed to refer to people who aren't in the network as well, in the insurance network with that insurance company. So that's why if you have a cash-based practice, especially, they're not always the best resource.
And that's kind of people's expectation too, is, oh, my doctor referred me, they take insurance. So do you want to grab Ginger's or?
Yeah. Okay. So how do you approach people at a networking gathering? That's where you go in ready to listen and saying, tell me about you. Tell me about your business. Tell me, who do you serve? And just like they're one of your clients, let me learn all about you. There's going to be some natural opportunities for you to say something about them, about yourself. And hopefully they'll ask you some questions as well. And really, that's the best thing to do, is just go and being the listener.
So one example, and it depends on what kind of event you're at, but if you're like a business after hours, it's pretty easy. But if you are, just say, hey, I noticed you have 3 kids, or, just pick up something you noticed about them and make a comment. And it just opens a conversation. So if you're nervous about going up to someone, it's because you have this intent inside you that you want to talk about you, or you want something from them. So you got to get rid of that intent altogether and just go up and be interested in people, just like you would going to a social event, and you're just going to meet new people, potential new friend. And it's just making small conversation, which may turn into something, it may not. And if it doesn't, oh well, you still were social and you put yourself out there and you're practicing having those conversations. So April says, what would you say is the most times to try without getting a response? I had a doctor very excited about my business. He told me to follow up with him after Christmas. I have called and left multiple messages and no return calls at all, probably about 6 calls. So I would say 6 is probably is an okay number. But what I say is, leave at least 2 weeks, 4 weeks in between. If you've already done 6 calls, I'd leave a month. And then I would try a different avenue. So if you've left calls and no response, then send a letter if you can.
Well, and just to add to that, what was the context? And so were you in a position where that doctor felt like you could help them out? So if you just said your business and they're very excited about it, well, okay, so that's where I would approach, hey, I have this idea on how I can support you, and let that be part of your message with them.
And that's exactly what I do with my OBGYNs. I know that they want to have successful surgeries. So prolapse, for example. So that's exactly how I approach them. It's like, I want you to have the best surgical outcomes possible. these are some things that we teach our clients. So, and I first thing say, I don't want them to be threatened like, oh, I can fix something that they can't. That's not, it's just that, if I did this together with your surgery, those outcomes are going to be that much better. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's exactly, sometimes I just write to them to ask them, what are their biggest struggles with their clients? What are one thing that, one client that they struggle with? And just like with us, do we not have struggles where getting clients to do their home program? So all other professionals kind of have those same struggles. So what are those that maybe we can help them with? Good questions.
Mhm. And if any of you want to practice, feel free to send me a message on Messenger and reach out to me. I can I'll be happy to be your guinea pig if you feel like you just want to try it out, or if you want any feedback, I'm happy to do that. I might shoot you down. I may not want to connect with you, but no, I'm just kidding. No, feel free absolutely to reach out to me if you want to.
Does anyone else have any questions or scenarios that they want to go through or struggles that they feel like they're just facing right now?
We've got the introverts dilemma. We could potentially put on cameras and have people on camera, and then you got to be like live with everybody on recording, or you have the struggle of trying to type it out in a chat, which is more.
And if you're wondering how to make that initial connection, so say you get your big 45 and you want to set up a meeting with someone, just call and say, you know what, this is so-and-so. I really want to learn more about what you do. I have a practice and there's some things out of my scope. So I'm just talking maybe psychologist or something like that. And I really want to find a good place to refer people to. And so I'd like to know a little bit about what you do and how your practice runs. So it's just a way of getting in the door to learn more about them, like you're going to be a referral source to them. So that's just a nice way to get into that professional's door to make those one-to-one connections.
And then April asked, when responding to someone to discuss your business, what's the most important thing to say, especially if it's timed? Well, I think the most important thing to do is ask questions of them first, which the questions you ask should be ones that you want to share about your business, which would be some of the basic things. Who is your ideal client? Oh yeah, I get nervous and forget what to say. So if you have some of the basics, tell me about your ideal client. I think that's one of the best ones that you can ask, because you're really getting into what's important to them in their business. And then that gives you an opportunity to ask for them to ask you the same thing or to say the same thing. What is it that charges you up about your business? What do you love having about your business? Some of those things that show your excitement about what you do, or how do you help people? Your own.
That's what I was going to say. What problems do you solve for people? Mm-hmm. And how does that change their life? So that's what people want to know, is like, okay, what we do is our vehicle, but what are the outcomes? What do you solve for that person, and how does that solving that problem change their life?
Right. So generally, it doesn't include any kind of jargon. So, especially in pediatrics, from what I hear other people saying a lot is, if we get to start talking about, well, I do sensory integration, which is a little more well-known now, but if you start using trauma-informed, blah, 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 and not that I'm not dismissing trauma-informed, but I'm saying people don't know what that means. So if you're talking to someone who could be a potential client, or and also keeping in mind that some of the people you're networking with may have family members that could use your services. So, sometimes jargon is great among other professionals, but not everybody knows it. So focusing on the function, I help parents learn to help their children to be more successful in school, so that they're not having behavioral issues and that kind of thing. That wasn't very well said, because I didn't plan that out, because I'm an introvert.
one example that I use is I help women overcome bladder leaks so they can go grocery shopping with confidence and without anxiety. So there's so many little taglines of all the little things you treat that you can write a statement like that. I help women overcome pressure down there. So prolapse, in other words, so they can run without feeling like their insides are going to fall out. I mean, these are extreme cases, but this is what we say to people because this is what they want to know. They're like, oh my gosh, that's me. I didn't know what was going on. So because I'm a women's health therapist, that's why I'm bringing some of these up. Another one is, I help people overcome headaches so they don't have to miss another day of work. So those are some different ones that, different things that you can think about. And you're going to word it differently based on who you're talking to, but the more basic, the more simple in layman's terms, the better. Because you got to think of, you want people to hear and be like, oh my gosh, that's me. I need that. Or I want to know more. I have people I know I could send to this person.
Mhm.
So that's one thing I encourage you to do is just write down everything you help and write statements like that. So I help them overcome their bladder leaks, but it's going to change their life this way. So they can travel beyond 10 minutes out of town. So they can travel with their husband. So they can go grocery shopping without having to find the nearest bathroom. So there's things like that. They can go to the gym without having to wear black and a sweatshirt tied around their waist. So that's the way their lives are going to be changed. They're going to have confidence. They're not going to isolate. Perfect. All right. Well, 6:32, we did pretty good, keeping it on time. So if you have any other questions or you want a little bit more guidance, don't hesitate to reach out. Did you put our email in the chat at all, Alicia?
I did not, but I can do that right now.
And thanks to those of you that re-registered and hopped back on tonight. We appreciate it. We hope you got some things to take with you and implement right away. So those of you that have been procrastinating, now you've got some tools to get moving.
There we go. There's our email. Oops, sorry, I didn't send it to everyone. Let me try that again. There we go. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us if you guys need anything.
Awesome.
Hope it was
All right.
helpful. Get out there. We want to hear about it. Send us a message and let us know how your networking went this week. Do something this week. You got
All
this.
right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a good night.